Square roots and approximations. This lesson will provide information on square roots and approximations and how they are used on the ACT college entrance exam. First off, it's worth your time to memorize the perfect squares and their corresponding square roots, since it will help you solve problems quicker. Provided on the written portion of this website is a list that you can print out and look over. Now we're going to head over to the classroom to review the most common application of square roots, the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, Pythagorean theorem. What is that? Well, basically it's a theorem that helps you solve, basically find the missing side if you're of a right triangle, if you're given two sides of a right triangle. So, say we draw a right triangle, and the Pythagorean theorem goes something like this. It goes c squared equals a squared plus b squared. What you call a and b on this right triangle is not near as important as what you call c. C is always opposite the 90 degrees, opposite the right angle. So it's going to be what we call the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So I'm going to label that first. That is the most important. What you call a and b really doesn't matter after that. So I'm going to put a here on the base and b for the height. So Pythagorean theorem is basically you're going to given maybe a and b, the length of those sides. You got to find c, or you're going to be given c and a. You're going to have those lengths. You got to find b. So you're going to be given 2 out of the 3 lengths of a right triangle. You got to find the missing side. An example. Say we have a right triangle, and the base of it is a length of 3, and the height of it is a length of 4. So if you just follow what you're calling C, that's the hypotenuse, that's the side opposite the 90, that's the most important part. That's the side that's missing. So if we want to find that length, we're just going to write C squared, because we don't know what that is, equals A squared. We call that the base, so we're going to write 3 squared, plus the other dimension, which is the height, which is 4, so we're going to write plus 4 squared. What you got to do after that is you got to figure out what is 3 squared and what is 4 squared, which is 9 and 16 respectively. So you get c squared equals 9 plus 16. Add those numbers. You get 25. So you get c squared is equal to 25. Where people will make mistakes on something with the right triangles in Pythagorean theorem, they will answer, they'll see choice A says 25. Hey, they got that. They're going to choose that answer. Don't, because you just made one mistake. You didn't solve for C. You got C squared equals 25. So what you need to do is you need to take the square root of both sides to solve for C. So C is going to be a length of 25. Square root of 25, which is 5. In math, usually we would put a plus or minus in front of that 5. However, length of a side cannot be negative, so we're just going to go with the positive answer. So in this case, the length of the missing side would be 5. Let's do another one where you have C, but you got to find what you can call A or B, such as. Now I'm going to draw it a little different because they can draw it any way they want. They can put this right triangle like what seems to be upside down. It doesn't matter. You just got to know that the opposite side of the right angle, what we call C. I'm going to give that a length of 10 now. And I'm going to give the base 6. So you have to realize you have C now. So you can write, using this Pythagorean theorem, C squared, you can write 10 squared equals 6 squared plus, oh, we don't have this height, we'll call that B for right now. We're missing that, so we're going to call it B. So that'll be plus B squared. Now, as we did in the other triangle, we squared the numbers that we had. So you're going to get 10 squared, which is 100. 6 squared, which is 36, plus B squared. Now you need to solve for B. So from here, you're going to have to subtract 36 from both sides. (100 minus 36 is 64). Equals 36 minus 36, that's 0. So we're just left with B squared on the right side of the equation. Now once again, you got b squared equals 64. Like I said, common mistake. People are going to choose 64. Guess what? They're going to have that as choice A or choice B. Watch out. You didn't solve for b. Because it wouldn't make sense, first of all. If you said that height was 64, that wouldn't give us a triangle. You couldn't create a triangle like that. So let's take the square root of both sides. And knowing your perfect squares, the square root of 64 is 8. You would just go with the positive answer, not the negative, because again, length cannot be negative. So we get, what I'm trying to say is, when you're dealing with the Pythagorean theorem, if you're trying to find the hypotenuse, you're going to be adding the two numbers and taking the square root. Bottom line. If you have one of the height or the bases, you're going to be subtracting those two squares and then taking the square root. You just have to be careful what you call C, and you can't go wrong. Don't forget the final answer you need to have the square root of.